ability to project power in the air, on land, and at sea is now inextricably linked to our superiority in the digital realm. Our Workforce Innovation Directorate is the tip of the spear in our talent war, executing a single mission to build a new arsenal of cyber talent. Shape the force. Build the pipeline. Secure the talent.
All right, welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. So our blockbuster afternoon continues with a presentation from Mr. Matt Isnor on DoD 8140 implementation. Matt is the Cyber Workforce Development Division Chief in our WID CIO family. You get to see that really cool video about who we are and what we do. Please be ready to ask him at your burning 8140 questions and DCWF questions. Get ready, as there will be a Q&A session at the end of his presentation. So Matt, take it away.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. I am the last presentation for the evening before the social. We can get there quick. You know, ask any questions whatsoever, we can move on. Sold? All right. So as this wonderful topics, and I'm a little biased here, but this is the best brief of the whole summit. And we will deep dive into 8140, all of the ins and outs and all of your questions, which I know you don't have any because it's a perfect program. All right. So some of this is going to be kind of a historical. You guys know a lot of this already, just kind of building blocks of 8140. Some of the slides will be a little bit redundant from Mr. Gorax because I think he stole my slides. So we will make sure that we kind of touch on a lot of things, but we're going to hit on the various updates, you know, DCWF, how many work roles we've added, where we're moving, how we're progressing in the 8140 implementation plan, how are we doing with the data streaming, the reporting aspects, make sure we kind of tie all that together and then kind of work where we're going to go with qualifications, proficiency levels, and assessments. So looking forward to it. Next slide. I want to, especially in the current landscape, you always got to sit and start walking down the pathway of why are we doing any of this? Why is 8140? Why is it DCWF? Why are we doing all of the, the execution and the qualification of the cyber workforce? So we tie to legislation, we tie to policy. Title 10 mandates that we do it. 8140 is a policy series, it's in statute. Every one of these EOs from the current administration hits on the effort that we're trying to do right here is where are our people in cyber and how qualified are they? That's what we're ultimately trying to kind of put together and understand and be able to report upwards to our senior leaders. Because at the end of the day, trying to fight for resources, trying to advocate for appropriations and funding and areas to get the tools and everything to our operators, we've got to be able to show that in some reporting systems and be able to advocate. So next slide. We started to change a little bit of our voice in area of operations. We started with identification. We were doing the coding. We were making sure where all our individuals are. This next wave of where we're trying to tie to is readiness. At the end of the day, there's a lot of areas of how people quantify readiness, operational readiness. How do we actually, what capabilities do our people do? So, but the people, our number one asset across the board, is the biggest way to understand. You can have the best tools, the best resources, the most money, but if you don't have anybody to do it, it doesn't really matter. So we've got to make sure that we invest in our best asset, our people, and make sure that we kind of drive that overall voiceover to our senior leaders. This is how we understand how ready our workforce is. So that's why I will advocate for all the services and stakeholders in here, why the reporting mechanisms, what you put in your manpower personnel systems and your LMS systems is so key. That's the story that we tell. That is the things that we communicate upward to our senior leaders. So want to make sure. All right. Right now, we are in the beginning stages of implementation. We are walking through. If everyone's not familiar with this is our DCWF work role context. It has all the elements up there. As you can see, even with what Mr. Gorak kind of posted earlier, it's not cybersecurity, it's IT, it's cybersecurity, it's cyber effects, AI, data, software. It's anything with technology. Why do we do that? Well, the talent all comes from a very similar place. It all has the same background. They walk through K through 12 with your STEM backgrounds and areas of understanding. So we want to be able to, instead of fight with the rest of our functional communities, let's all work together. Let's move in the right direction and be able to tell, again, our senior leaders what the capability is. So we got to make sure, while it's not a perfect document, it's not a perfect framework, it's a starting point. It allows and it understands the capability. What we highlight here is where we're currently at with the last SWMB. We had 2 new work roles. We have 76 work roles now. Remember the number, 76. Probably next time we'll have more, but these 2 in red right here are the newest additions. We are going to be putting out some guidance and implementation to start getting our workforce coded in those areas. Each one of these across the board is the services, the operational people, the feedback loop that we have constantly out there. They give us what we're missing. They sit there and say, what the knowledge and skills that you currently have in the framework aren't covering this basis. So we need to be able to be agile, flexible, and responsive and really update the DCWF and make sure that it's all annotated in there. At the end of the day, this operational framework that they have right here is what the people on the boots on the ground are telling us. We run tons of focus groups. Matt Isnor is not the SME in cyber. Yeah, I know. It's hard to believe. But every one of these is very technical. Every one of them has their own niche, their own area that they need to focus on. We need to be able to kind of deconflict that and understand where that's going. So when we go in these areas of IT and cybersecurity and cyber enablers, we constantly do this push out to our operational people and say, what are we missing? How can we update? How can we refresh? We need to make sure as operational things happen, as attack happen, we get back and update those work roles. So it's very important to keep having that feedback loop. If you guys see something in the environment that's not right, reach out to us. We are happy to sit there and go through the process of putting out CADMS taskers and focus groups. I think I have 13 CADMS taskers out right now. So sorry, I apologize. Next slide. So wanted to hit a little bit on the actual reporting mechanisms. How do we go about making sure we're accurately reporting, we're getting all of our content? This is what we're going with right now. While this is a new area, a lot of it is manual reporting. A lot of it's Excel sheets. Wonderful 1990s technology. We need to move to the next level. We need to start getting after various LMSs. How do we report that readiness? We need to sit there, and you can see on the right side, every service has a similar problem set. Every fourth estate, every agency, very similar. Some are farther than others. We're going to get there, but it's a collaborative stakeholder problem set that we got to really bring our heads together and see where we need to move. So it's kind of the wave of the future. It's not going to be solved tomorrow, but we have to keep pushing that to our senior leaders, make sure we're having those discussions. CIO cannot push that or mandate that down. The services need to provide us that feedback. If that's the solution that you want to go with, please bring that, get your CIOs involved, make sure that they're echoing that to our Honorable Ms. Davies, and we'll go after the solution. Next slide. All right, timelines. This is where we're at. I showed all 7 elements out there to make sure that we were kind of hitting all of them at times, but we didn't throw everything at you. We had that in phases. The first phase, obviously, was cybersecurity. It was very easy. It was the old information assurance workforce. That was an easy transition. A lot of people had that, but the others had to start getting a little more mature. That's why we're right now, as you can see, in phase 3, February 2026, our wonderful data team, led by Mr. Alfredo Rodriguez over here, they're starting to collect all that content. There you go, see? It is constantly going in. I can tell you if you don't have access to Advana, please reach out to them. Make sure you understand what your organizations are reporting. I'm telling you, sometimes it's a little scary. Sometimes it's, something you never knew. So we got to make sure that we're constantly communicating. We're constantly working with them. The whole data team is wonderful. They will jump on any call, anytime to make sure that they are accurately reporting. So please leverage them across the board. As you can see, and go back one more, as you see over here into 27, 28, we're going to start now getting after the whole framework. Some of it is paused right now. You got that to be determined. The Intel side, we're still working with our counterparts over in INS to understand what direction they're going. They might create their own framework for the IC community. We want to be complementary of that. So we got to work with them and come up with a shared solution or shared way forward. Mr. Gorak mentioned a little bit of the AI data ones. It was kind of on pause, but we're working with our CDAO and R&E counterparts to understand what they want to do, how they want to move forward with updating and refreshing the AI data workforce. I'm hoping to kind of move that forward in the middle of the summer. So again, a lot of this is kind of in flux. It's very fluid. We're always going to be updating. We have a 2-year cycle. So as cybersecurity got refreshed last year, IT is going to get refreshed this year. We'll make sure that we work with our other OPRs to make sure we update those elements as well. All right. Always have to show the data one. This is your Advana system. This is how it comes in. It was very tedious to get access to the manpower and personnel systems, those reporting fields and everything that we needed to get so we can identify the workforce. Well, it's even more tedious to get reporting from Excel sheets and way forward. So now we've got to go through the LMSs, how do we get a more continuous loop? How do we get more automated? How do we go through that process? Happy, I don't have the problem. Luckily, I don't have to report, but I think there's a lot of goodness already in the environment. There's tons of vendors and areas that have solutions. Please go and talk to them, see what we can come up with. Because I get death mail from the data team when they have to do Excel sheets. So let's come up. All right, next slide. So I wanted to show this slide again, back to talent management. It is all about understanding capability. It's not one phase. It's not the old 8570 where we just check, we had a little bit of compliance. Are you able to do certifications, those types of things? It is a 3-phased approach where we understand the aptitude, we understand the talent coming in, then we move to a residential qualification, understand the organizational requirements, the mission requirements, the work section requirements. We want to be able to tell that story where they're at with their capability. There's nothing better for an operational group. If you walk down to Cyber Command or wherever, they can tell you what the capability of every person on the cyber mission force is able to do. If they have to surge, they have issues, they have modifications they have to do, they have that data, they can move in that direction. We as a department need to move in that direction across the board. Be able to tell the same seniors up in the Pentagon those types of data points. If we have issues where we need to go over and migrate everything over to Guam or some other area, then we are able to look at this data and push it this way. This is a very valuable tool to not only our seniors, but the individuals going over to the congressional hearings and things that we're currently going on right now. That will be able to tell them the story of how we're moving forward. I can tell you these types of data points is so crucial that other functional communities constantly reach out to us in cyber to say, I want to do that with my workforce. Being able to tell very granular level, what are the skills that my people can do and how do we get there? So I think people are starting to understand the area that we need to kind of move inside of the department in all of this area. All right, slide you saw earlier. These are the areas I've mentioned, the 3 phases. These are the things that we're trying to implement right now. We want to get as robust a quals matrix as you possibly have. We want to have every option out there for our services to be able to qualify their people. It has various areas. You've got certifications, you've got training, you've got ranges, you've got education. Any way that we can ultimately put content in there for our service members to come in, that's where we want to go. So if you know somebody, if you have a solution, if you go back and say, this company does a wonderful job, please have them reach out. Happy to walk them through the process. It's key to kind of walk through and see how many we can get inside of this environment. I talk about the top level. That's where we're currently at right now. The second phase is residential calls. You're also going to have the same exact qualifications and training for what they do at baseline built on for residential. You can come up with training pathways. You can come up with areas that you can kind of push your members to get that requisite knowledge base. There's a lot of solutions. I think the meat of the 8140 program, the most important aspect is the residential. That's the key aspect. That's the organizational based stuff. All right. Next slide. So what we wanted to highlight, these are little updates for you. So you guys are tracking where we got the proficiency levels. We've got extensions for waivers. As you guys are walking through, you guys have options inside of the state or the services. You can leverage waivers. You can make sure that individuals can get qualified. If they're not automatically qualified, they've got a certain amount of time, 9 months, 6 months. You can give extensions. There are options across the board for you. Again, we want to make sure that we're taking care of our people. We want to find quality. We want to find the best and the brightest, but we also want to take care of them and get them the training in areas that they can kind of move into. So we want to hit a lot of those areas. Next slide. Some of that, we ran into some hiccups. We were leveraging some technology that didn't pan out as much as we would have liked. So we had to go back to the old model of humans in the loop. We run focus groups continuously over and over. We've got another one going on right now where we get anywhere from 40 to 80 SMEs. They come in and evaluate and look at the content, the certifications, the ranges, all of it across the board to make sure that we align the correct certs, IT, make sure we do that rigor, the validation aspect, that the output is what we want. If you see up there, my favorite acronym, RAGE, that is some of the wonderful range providers that have great training. They have abilities, they have scenarios out there that have great content. Well, we want to make sure we annotate that, we put it into the framework as much as possible as well. There's tons. Some of our academic providers have wonderful competitions, ranges. So there's tons and tons of training out there, and there's tons of opportunities to make sure that we move in that direction. So those are some of the updates of where we're moving. 26 is going to be a busy time. We're shifting over to IT evaluations right now. Then we'll shift over to range as well. So again, bear with us. We have a lot of humans in the loop, a lot of CADMS taskers, and only so many resources. I am going to try to still get some kind of automated thing in the future so that we can move much quicker. I know, Emily. So way forward. Next slide. I just hit on it. A lot of this right here, we're already into 2025 or into spring 2026. You can see where we're going. We just finished the cybersecurity certifications. You're going to see some of those qualifications pop in to your quals matrix. We are going to shift over. We were hitting some of the OT. We were going to hit the 462 work role. We had a bit of a snag with SMEs and personnel. So we've paused that one. We're shifting back over to IT. Again, we're just continuously moving, trying to get as much out in the quals matrix as possible, make it as robust as possible. And if you guys have, again, solutions, things that we're missing, please, feedback, send them over. Next one. All right, work roles. As I mentioned, we added 2 more work roles. Now we're up to 76. We also have gotten feedback on some other ones. So currently in the queue to be evaluated, we have ISSO. We had some ultimate feedback where at the very beginning, the culmination, it was combined in the ComSec area or the ISSM. We're now relooking at that and possibly breaking it out into 3 separate work roles, refining the ComSec and the ISSM to make sure we're capturing the right content. Again, a lot of this is because of when it was crafted. It might have made sense then. Well, it doesn't make sense right now. So that's what we have to bring those focus groups together. We have to get that content back from the SMEs and listen to how they think we need to move forward. And then capture the right KSAs, make sure they align to the tasks, those types of things. So there's a lot in there. You also see here, those are the 2 work roles, the Secure Configure Specialist, the 452. That was presented by Space Force. They had a gaping hole in areas that they were not covering. So we wanted to make sure that we annotated that. They had a wonderful 22-page justification document. Light read, it's wonderful. But it was a great document. That's the type of feedback that we need. So I always advocate we push that out as our gold star. If this is what you want to justify, this is what you need. So well done, Space Force. So with that also, here is some of the areas, work role alignment as of things how we're moving forward, how we're hitting it. All of these areas right here, like I mentioned, cyber effects. We still only have 13 work roles. We're working with Cyber Command and PCA to add the 2 last work roles from the JCT and CS. The ASO, the data engineer, make sure we really annotate exactly what the Cyber Mission Force is ultimately doing from COPS Group 1 and 2. And then we're going to kind of focus on AI data coming up. Probably, I actually just learned that. So probably in the middle of the summer. So looking forward to it. Next slide. Residential calls. We also know that, there it is. Sorry. Residential's next. So in this area, we're going to work on various training packages, upskilling. How are we hitting those? We had 2 knowledge statements where you heard zero trust. That was added earlier to the universal KSAs. So now we have 9 universal KSAs. Make sure that that covers all of it. We're working, I talked to our CIO counterparts today. We're going to come up with training. How do we come up with solutions to make sure we cover that gap? We'll have an implementation. We'll work through this. Again, all these changes that we make with the frameworks, with the training, quals matrix, or even DCWF or 8140, we will always give you sufficient amount of time to implement. We'll never just drop it and then expect it the next week. Some of these learning playlist options on the left side, we've got wonderful solutions that are out there. JKO, we've got DAU has mapped tons of content across the board where you can go on and find a work role and you can find the training courses that align to it. Highly suggest, they've got wonderful providers how to go through there. And the foundational timelines, you can see some of what we're predicting, how we're going to move into residential. Some of it, like AI data, still to be determined. We were going to put a date there because Mr. Gorak wants to hold me to a date. But until we actually get the agreement, because we're not the OPRs for data AI, we got to make sure we kind of work with them. A lot of this, while the CIO is a facilitator, we tried to make sure that the process is followed for the frameworks and across the board. We still are dependent upon those guys, the OPRs, to make sure that they bring the SMEs, they bring the content, and we're able to get the right content or right information into the framework. Next slide. Residential qualifications. It's upon us. This is the area where we're going to we're working on a resource, residential SOP. Basically give you the framework, give you the areas of what we, a guide to kind of walk you through residential. Some operational organizations have never seen a JQR, have never seen a check ride, but I guarantee every one of you has done it. Everyone that walks into some organization doesn't walk in the front door and they sit them down, next to a computer, give them the keys to the kingdom and say, please update my networks. They always make sure that they're capable of doing something. We're just trying to make sure that that is put into documentation, tracked, so we understand it. JQRs are a tough one. It aligns to proficiency levels. It aligns to a lot of training pathways, how we can upskill people. There's great use for these JQRs. That's why we're trying to come up with SOPs and content to make sure we map it. All right. My wonderful slide. So we finally got to the end state for the contracting DFARS update. I think last year I was still hopeful at this summit, and now we're finally here. We got updates in with ANS. We've taken the language out of the DFARS, and now they pass the roles and responsibilities to the functional community. We are now working with the front office, put out a memo to implement and say now contractors are part of the total force. Now we will start reporting on them. Yep, you can all please. So when we do that, now, like I said, we're not going to just drop it on you. We are going to come up with a process guide. What does the next 12 to 18 months look like? I'll put together another wonderful CADMS package, and get focus groups together to come up with a plan. I want all your inputs. How can we do this best? Make sure we do it. So it's exciting times. Everyone's going to be now in this, back to our total force. We always had the contractors were out of it, but now we're moving in that direction, and we're going to have an end state of every capability and understanding in our force. All right. That's it. And then questions. One thing that I think we pushed out, but I don't think we echoed across in vocal. So I put it in our slides going forward, is inside of the department, we were given the exemption from the hiring freeze for any work role that's coded inside of the DCWF. It's signed by the PNR. You are allowed to go and hire for anybody in your workforce that aligns to one of those 76 work roles. If you do not, if you go to your HR leads and they say you can't, point them to this memo. PNR said they could. So if you don't have a copy of that, please reach out to us. We will post it on our webpage. It is active now, cyberworkforce.mil. Please go. I swear, I think there's a QR code. Make sure you understand what you're allowed to do, how you can go about doing it, and work with your HR to go after and hire the qualified talent. We want to make sure that you're not deficient in that area, that you have as much as you possibly can in your ops centers. So again, if you have any questions in that, please reach out. We will get you the documentation to make sure that you get updates in that area. All right. Oh. All right. I know I did such a wonderful job that there's no questions. So I thank you for your wonderful day. All right. I'll take questions. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. That was awesome.
Thank you.
Okay, and we'll keep it short. I know it's the end of the day, but great job. Thank you, Matt, as always, for all that your team does. I'm Emanuel Sheikh at the University of West Florida, and we are proud supporters of the great DCWF. I think we're one of the biggest users. And so I've got a two-part question. First is, I'm curious, how do you come up with new work roles? And kind of as Mark is always preaching to us, is that informed by data coming from the defense world, the defense contractor world, and anything beyond that? Because like you're saying, it's a very dynamic field. And so we're always we work a lot with the defense industrial base partners in Pensacola and across the nation. And we're always trying to make sure that, they're keeping up and their data is being poured in. So I'm curious what goes into that. And then from the flip direction, I'm curious what is being done to help the defense world and the defense industrial base, including, contractors and beyond, then adapt to those work roles and the details of them, right? Because we have a lot of those conversations, particularly in the private sector defense world as well, all the partners that support our defense agencies. And we'd love to be part of the solution to help kind of bring rapid adoption of that. As an example, we just launched a new pathway for the AI and ML specialist DCWF work role that's part of our National Cyber Workforce Development Program, and it's free thanks to our federal partners to all eligible veterans and government personnel. So two-part question. Thank you for all.
Thank you. And thank you for being such a wonderful partner. First part one is how we go through the process. As I said, we kind of have an open loop feedback where we have town halls, we have symposiums, constantly trying to get information from our stakeholders. As I mentioned with the Space Force, you can provide packets. We give examples on how to go through that. But because we have open forums, not only internally, externally to our industry partners, our other stakeholders outside of the department, we're always accepting new stuff. And we will always, when somebody has a great idea and throws over a new content, then that kind of triggers the start. Because again, we're not the SMEs in the area. The people that are usually providing that content are. So we want to make sure that we do our due diligence and walk through that. So I'll start a CADMS package. It'll go through the process. We'll send out surveys. We'll put together focus groups of anywhere from 60 to 100 people where we can actually bring them in and get, it's not just the services, it's all fourth estate, it's all industry, it's all academic, where we can actually start walking and talking what is the best way forward for that area. My team does a wonderful job where they look at the content that's being provided. We do a redundancy study, making sure that it's not already covered somewhere else in another work role. I always throw out, it has to have 25% differentiation between other work roles to make sure it's valid. We need to go through and do that evaluation. And then also, we ask the questions during the surveys. We ask the areas where, is this better suited to already be, are we gapped with the KSAs, but we need to can just fit it underneath another work role. So we want to make sure that we do as much questioning as we go through this to not just add more work roles because it's Wednesday. We just want to make sure that we want to accurately depict exactly what they're asking for. So, and then I will say I've had probably 10 to 15 calls from the DIB organizations already as the contractors, our DFARs have gotten updated, and they're asking those same questions of what's the next step? How do we report? How do we make sure we align to what you want with 8140? How do we do that in the statements of work? How do we do those areas? And do you mean people internal to networks or just anybody that touches a network? So there's a lot of questions that we have to get answers to. That's why I want to do the focus groups, bring the wonderful brains together and make sure we have the best way forward going across the board. Always. Next question. Sir.
Hate to slow up the social, I'll be quick. And you can answer me, I'll follow up on email in case this is too complex. But yeah. I'm from Cyber Command, from the executive agency for cyber training ranges. And the comment you made about range kind of caught my eye a little bit.
Yep.
One of the challenges that we have, as you know, right? How do we determine readiness when people are training on all kinds of different things, right?
Yeah.
That's part number one. And part number two is, as you add into that DAU, JKO, all the other great things that we're just throwing out there, which I agree with, but how do we collectively track that? So is your office or someone in the department looking at, okay, we've got 172 different sources of training, exercises, ranges, et cetera. How are we pulling all that together so that the warfighter is not having to download, convert to PDF, send to my training guide, to upload, to et cetera, et cetera. Does that make sense to you?
It does. Yep. No, and I'll hit the range one. I am constantly out there. Some of the national cyber ranges I want to go talk to because they do a wonderful job of aligning some of the cyber command requirements. But if you look at the frameworks, and I'll talk to what I talked this morning, the competitions. When I went to put these scenarios together, I gave them a list of work roles. They looked at the skills, the tasks that they had to do. They create scenarios off of it. They start walking through the process to get an output that's measurable. Same thing we do with exercises, competitions, ranges, across the board. Those hands-on abilities and sandboxes and everything can be wonderful training mechanisms, but they can also be assessments. You can sit there behind the scenes and understand if a person's able to grab this flag or able to identify the adversary in your network, then you're capable of coming into into the workforce, or you are now proficient enough to do your job that I just hired you to do. So there's mechanisms. I know Mr. Gorak mentioned skill-based hiring earlier. That's just a start. We want to start really getting after things like performance-based, understanding environments. A lot of the operational individuals already do this because they have wonderful exercises, but it's just virtualizing that. How do we automate it? How do we make it available for the whole department? So there's a lot of work to be done. Nothing but job security across the board. And I'm trying to think of the second one. All right, awesome. Tracking it. That gets back to the LMS systems. How do we get into the readiness? How do we annotate those measures? How do we track the qualifications? Because we have a process and we do the rigor between evaluating the certs going in. It's making sure that we're hitting the mark of what we're trying to validate. And the work role, the output of the cert, the training, the range is hitting the mark. But we also want to hit a feedback loop. So being able to understand from our operational individuals, is this, was this person the best qualified? Was this the right pathway? And then we can start providing some of that content to our certs and training providers to make sure they understand. Some of the tools and resources that we're ultimately hitting, it will be able to evaluate not just the full work role, but also the KSA, how closely every one of those learning objectives or content in the curriculum or a scenario closely aligns to the knowledge and skill. So it'll give you a kind of a rating. So there's a lot that still needs to be kind of determined. We're in as I said, the baby steps of implementation, but hopefully we'll get there. If you have any feedback or areas that we need to kind of better, happy to kind of have those discussions to move the program to be more efficient. Is that it? Are you guys waiting for the social? Is that why everyone? So, all right.
All right, what an incredible first day. Thank you to Matt Isnor for making us smart on 8140. So tomorrow promises to be even more insightful with Service CIO discussion panel, key takeaways from our cyber leaders, and we'll announce the winner of our first cyber workforce competition. I don't know if you noticed the scoreboard has changed. University of North Georgia has edged ahead. So some interesting things coming ahead. So as you head to the social, I encourage you to connect with your fellow attendees. Make sure to continue to use the hashtag CWS to connect with us on social media. I did have one end of day notice that I wanted you to make sure you're aware of for day 2. Day 2 is going to begin with a brief from Honorable Kirsten Davies, that's the DOW CIO. Her brief will be closed to the press. We cordially invite our colleagues from the media to join us when the public program resumes at approximately 10:15. So she really wants to take that opportunity to have a closed session, more of a town hall with just the true cyber workforce and close at that time. So for the media, I thank you for your cooperation and invite you to join us at approximately 10:15 tomorrow. And then finally, before we break Mike Black, please provide us with closing comments and we'll move off to the social.
Right. I want to thank you all for sticking with us throughout the day today and helping us make today's discussions meaningful and relevant to the cyber workforce mission. Now, I did say I learned 3 new words today: imbue, plasticity, and want a water. So I asked ChatGPT to put that in a sentence for me that would be meaningful to the DoD or DOW cyber workforce. This is what ChatGPT came up with. At the DOW Cyber Workforce Summit, leaders emphasized how we must imbue our cyber workforce with a mindset of continuous learning, a leverage workforce plasticity to rapidly adapt to evolving threats and even eliminate everyday friction down to solving the water problem so our operators can stay focused and ready and mission effectiveness in a no-fail environment. Again, thank you for sticking around. We do have our social. We have some appetizers and some beverages if you want a water. Okay. Please join us in the reception, down the hallway by the atrium. As Superstar said, tomorrow we start at 09:30. So again, thank you.